Now, those that say that you can't grow Arakawa or the shoyo on their own roots, I think this is doing quite well. This is a nice Arakawa Japanese maple, but it needs a few improvements to get a lot better. It needs to be pruned back and the branches need to be wired out. I need to remove the old dead stumps from the tree, and then I need to go into the tree and take this long branch, which I'm going to graft on these ugly roots. When you prune branches and no buds form, part of this branch can die off. Here's a fresh bud that is still alive, so I'm just going to remove this dead part and then see whether I can remove this scar a little bit as well. So use fine tools and just gently nibble away at the bark. Don't remove too much, you want the bud to still live, of course. Naturally, we don't want it to dry out. Add a little bit of cut paste. That will help healing and will keep it alive longer. Thinning out three-way splits helps to reduce swellings at the connection point. I need to remove this little bud here to avoid another three-way split. This is a very nice and healthy young sprout. However, there's a very long internode here, so it's not useful. Also, it is in a two-way intersection of the branch, so this can go. Similarly, the small one that grows here with the short internode also sits in this three-way intersection, or in this branch junction, so also this one is removed. Here another very long extension, which I could of course wire out, but because of the very long internode here, and the second one is also very long, I could remove it, as I also don't need the length. This is the widest point of the tree already. I'm just going to remove this right at the base here, in the hope that a new bud may form with shorter internodes afterwards. Right, now that the main pruning is done, let's have a look at the structure of the tree. What you see here is an extension, and this extension of the main trunk is fairly thin, and then it bulges here in this place where there is three branches coming together. None of these is really saying, I am the continuation of the trunk. So what I'm thinking about doing is removing this side branch, cutting out this whole section, cleaning it up with cut paste, bringing this branch up, this branch down, in this fashion. That way this really will become the main trunk continuation. This will become a nice side branch here on this side. This will fall away and this all will become a lot thinner. Now what you can't see, but what I can see, is if you look from the top, this is where somebody made a big chop in the history of this tree. So also here it might be good to do a bit of carving. I'm going to remove all the dead wood here, lower the rim, so that this can also close over in time. Then, once that is done, I'm taking this little branch, because I think that these roots are very heavy for this little tree. However, if I have a trunk growing out here, and maybe even here, then it becomes a more interesting tree. I know this looks painful, and it is painful because it's an old branch. I'm not going to air layer it off because I don't want to get more trees. I'm just going to take it off. And here you can see that the branch is fairly thin, even though there's lots of thick bark. So now I'm just going to gently start peeling off here, first of all bark, to see how thin do I need to make it. And then I'm going to actually pull away the dead wood itself, or well, the wood stump itself. You see here, there's a dead section here. Probably it has been pruned in this spot multiple times, causing the swelling. So it's very clear now that here is a large dead section on the inside, and I can quite easily remove all this dead stuff, creating a much bigger wound than intended, but probably over time this will help healing without less scarring. And cut paste putty, of course, it helps this wound to close over. Now here in the middle, of course, the same thing. I just have to gently bite away at the edge to start off with. Find out how much bark is there and when the living tissue starts. And then just start digging down until I reach healthy tissue. Just like that. Here the wood seems to go quite deep before it gets hard, so just a rotary tool can help. Now the hole went very deep, and even now I haven't reached the end of the rotting wood. So what I'm going to use is this 2-component filler. Plasticine, I don't know what you call it. It's supposed to be waterproof. It's frost resistant. And by just mixing it, I start the hardening process. I'll fill up the hole. Then I'll add cut paste. And that will hopefully help the colors to grow over it. And hopefully by summer this will start to be covered, and then in a few years it will be completely grown over if I allow this tree to really grow. So I'm pushing this in, and what I try to do is create a surface from which the water will run off. I don't want to create a surface where water can accumulate, because in the end that will just facilitate rotting. And now it's just a matter of letting this dry and harden. For the overall design, I think it's good if this branch is positioned a little bit more upward. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a tension wire between this point and between this main point, and then I'll just pull this up slowly. Always bend the branch. Beware that the wood is very brittle on these. So to do any bending you need multiple wires on older wood, so that you can support the branch at multiple locations. So I'm just using 2 or 3 of these 3mm wire pieces on each branch before I bend. And then very gently, carefully rotate and bend upwards, just like that. And this one, of course, gently downward. Right, now it's just a matter of getting all the smaller branches wired out, and then I'll start drilling some holes and putting this in place. Now all the branches are wired, everything is going out. I've created a lot of space here in the middle, so there's a lot of growth possible from these branches here to close the hole. And now I want to try and to get this branch to grab a hold here. For this, I need to drill a hole. I'm not completely sure this whole root here is alive, but well, all or nothing, just try. Then gently squeeze it through the hole, hoping that not too many buds get damaged. This might be too tight. No, this is still okay. To ensure that it does get fixed in place and in an upward slant, I'm going to put this little chopstick here on the side in the hole. I'm going to make sure that the buds are quite close to the exit. That way I have buds very near to the trunk that I can later use for positioning. Let me reduce this in size. I only need a tiny little point. And it's here just to keep it in place, so don't squeeze it in that tight that it damages the seal. Just like that. Now it can't move. Little bit of cut paste both on the entrance as the exit side, just to assure that no animals crawl in to feast on the inside and to stop water from going in. And then it's set. Now it's just a matter of waiting and let nature do its thing. This is one healthy Arakawa. Also here, the thread graft that I pushed through the roots is really doing well. And I think it might be time to take a peek here at the attachment to see whether slowly the branch is starting to fill the hole. I know it's a little bit tricky to do, but I really want to see. And I think, yeah, it has really connected now to the hole. Come and take a look. So this is the branch going in through the hole and coming out on that side. And you can see that this has swollen quite well. It is really filling this hole. I don't think I need to keep it wired in place, but it's not hurting anyone. I don't see anything happening here on this connection yet. I don't know whether this part of the root is still alive. I do hope so, otherwise I've done this for nothing. But I'm going to leave it in place just a little bit longer. Now let's take a look at the rest of the tree. I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge to see what's going on in the rest of the tree, right? This, of course, is the first foliage bed with one long runner, which I actually could remove. But I want to thicken up this branch more. Then the main branch going up here, this was the tiny small branch and it has really extended well. It is actually still pushing here at the tips. So this is really starting to fatten up and really become a leader again. Then I need to pay attention here in the back. There's a few smaller branches. This all comes from down below. And I can wire it out over winter. But it is also connected to the sacrifice here. So that's why this is still happy and healthy and growing. Hopefully next year I can cut that off. But overall, the whole structure of the tree is getting a lot better now. So I have a big back branch here that really affects the taper at this spot. I'm not sure whether I am going to remove it or not. But this is a nice branch now, well positioned. This is a nice branch, well positioned. Trunk going up with a branch again to the right. And then here the main continuation all the way up to the top here. And I think that does create a pretty decent image now. Yeah, it's a shame of this big lump here. But besides that, I think the structure is getting really nice. The wounds here in the middle, they've not really healed yet. But over time I have good hopes that they will. Also the one that I cut short here in the back has not started growing. But all that is details. The main trunk line and the main branches are okay now. Now those that say that you can't grow Arakawa or the Shoyo on their own roots, I think this is doing quite well. It is middle of April now and this tree is recovering very well. So I'm going to prune it back, but I'm going to keep track of a few things. This branch, I said, is going to be the new top. So all this extension growth that's happening here in the top, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm just going to let it grow. It does mean that I need to keep track of the wires because they might start biting in very soon. And then here in the back I grafted a branch on a root. That one I also want to encourage. So all the growth on the grafted side I'm going to leave alone. Everything else is going to go back to the first node. And then I'll just let it grow again. It is a little bit early in the year to start pruning so drastically, but hey, the tree has grown substantially and it is telling me, yeah, it's time. The leaves itself, they are losing a little bit of their dark color. I need to fertilize it. And next to this, today it is nice and sunny. There's not a lot of wind. You can see there is still some wind, but tomorrow afternoon we're expecting a big storm. And after that, temperatures might drop back to freezing point. The ends and the tips of the branches I might lose if we do get an overnight frost. Might as well just cut them off now, prepare the tree a little bit, and if I have pruned it back, it is a lot easier to put in the shed. We are at the end of May And this Arakawa has done so well that I already pruned it once, and you can see young growth here coming out there, a little bit here, and also the graft that I placed here in the back on the root, it is still pushing. So I have good hopes that once this branch starts swelling, that once you get the swelling here in the branch, the cambium layers will connect, and maybe next spring I can remove the donor side of this branch and this will become a trunk on its own. At that time I'll also look at styling. I might have to prune it back a little bit, but for now I'm just going to let it grow. Also here in the top, these branches I've not pruned. I want this to fatten up. All the wire has been removed. Starting to come along. Well, another month has passed. We are now in July, and this is for me the time to prune back these overly long stalks. Only here on the new leader I am going to keep the branches, so that's these 4. That will aid in fattening up here this connection, and over winter I can prune these back. But all this long stuff that's growing there, I'm just going to remove. And at the same time, I'm going to take cuttings. I don't know whether it's too late, so this is kind of an experiment. You won't see the result of the cuttings in this video, but in another one. Let me just prune this back very quickly. Effectively, everything that is extending out of profile is at this point removed. Just like that. Now I might get another push, which is nice for the development later on, but if I don't, it's not a problem. I am still working here on the crown. I do want those to strengthen. All back in profile. It looks a little bit odd, these long branches, but this is really what is needed to really create a fat base here. The rest of the tree is quite happy, quite healthy, quite dense. In winter I can probably rewire the whole thing. Maybe I'll get a second push of growth now that everything else has been pruned, but we are in the middle of summer, so I'm not sure. Now it's just a matter of letting it sit for the rest of the season. This can extend further. They are still growing. And we'll see in winter what it looks like. And who knows, I might go back all the way to this little branch as the further continuation. And I'll do a little layering here to create a nice little tree. That's for later. Now that it's pruned back, you can see the nice structure again. You can also see that these branches don't really look like bar branches anymore, even though they did look like that at the beginning of the video. Here, the cut paste is really splitting open. This wound, yeah, look at that, that's 80% closed. In the back, the graft is still happy and alive. It hasn't pushed as much as I wanted to, and therefore this has not fused yet. So also in this video I'm not going to show you the end result of that. I'm very sorry. That will be a different video. And we're at the end of October, end of the season. The tree has done really well. Look at these great whips, and they have really aided in now closing this wound, fattening up this branch. I don't see a lot of healing here, and to be honest, this hasn't grown all that much either. I mean, it is still okay, but it's not doing great. And it is horrible weather outside, so I've moved to the inside, but that means that I now have to add a bit of light. Let's see, I think this will do a lot better than what I had. And now you can see here, this is where I carved away this third branch that was sitting here. This has completely healed over the course of summer. This is a really good sign. Now here, down below, what you can see, there's not a very clear callousing over the cut area. I mean, there's a little bit of things happening here and here on the edge as well, but it's not closed over as much as I would like it. And the grafted branch, well, it has not taken yet. It's not fattened up enough. But it is still happy, it's still alive, it's growing well. So I'm just going to next year let it push a lot more. This was Jelle, growing bonsai with restoring an Arakawa maple over the course of a year. It is of course not done yet. And for the next year, this area is going to be thinned considerably. And these branches I'm going to cut back. I might go all the way back to this little branch here and take all of this off as either, I don't know, an air layer. But this might be the new top. But this I'm really happy with. It is the start of a new tree. I wish you a very nice winter. I'll see you next time with, I don't know, something else. See you next time.